But I say all of that to say that I have come up with the greatest idea in the history of ideas. This right here would totally revolutionize college football. It would create it would be the coolest thing in the entire world. It's not going to happen, but it'd be really cool if it did. What is going on, everybody? It is Jake with Master Football back at it again. Happy Wednesday. Thank you so much for being here. All right, if you've never been here before, Jake with Master Football, pro football, college football, video game football, anything related to American football, we discuss on the show right now. Please, emphasis on the please. Please subscribe to the channel. Just go down there, click that little button, man. Please like the video. Please share it. Please comment on it. Anything like that, I really appreciate it. All that stuff kind of matters. I'm still trying to get this baby going. Okay, it's a slow build. This is a slow build. But without further ado, let's get into the video. All right, so we got to talk about conference realignment real quick. So right now, it's actually pretty cool about college football because if you look at the top 10, top 25 teams, there's no real dominant team. I know that Alabama looked good, and they went ahead and they beat Florida, and they only beat them by 2. Georgia is a heavy favorite against Arkansas this weekend. I'm actually picking Arkansas in that game to cover, okay? But there are questions across the entire league. It doesn't look like there's necessarily a good or a dominant or an overly dominant team. So I actually really like that because it creates parity. The problem is you don't want the conference to be basically, Alabama and then Clemson and then the second best team in the SEC. You don't want college football to be that because then it becomes regional. Nobody really cares. There's certain sports that get regional, and once they get regional, it just kind of sucks because it loses that engagement. College football is awesome. It's wide open. It's really entertaining. There's upsets. There's this. There's that. There's so many cool things that go on. The pageantry, the stadiums, the crowds. It's awesome. Hopefully, we can get to a point to where there are more competitive top-flight teams. I actually really want them to expand that playoff just to give even a semblance of hope to those lower to mid-tier teams. But we are getting to the point to where conference realignment is kind of slowing down, and you can tell that when this article right here is highlighting the next probable move in conference realignment, and it's a big pile of meh. So here we are, a report from SI.com by Wilton Jackson, Colorado State Air Force, latest college football programs eyeing move to AAC. As conference realignment continues to change the college football landscape, 2 Mountain West programs, Colorado and Air Force, are expected to join the American Athletic Conference. Action Network's Brett McMurphy first reported the news, saying the move could likely happen next week, while the AAC has a clear stance on adding more teams to its conference as 3 prepare to leave. Matt Norlander of CBS Sports reported there is a significant disagreement over whether these schools leaving the AAC is ultimately a good move. The biggest problem right now is that no one has faith in Craig Thompson as commissioner of the Mountain West Conference, and there is growing concern about the league. So it says Colorado State and Air Force are both charter members of the Mountain West. The Air Force has never won a conference football title. And while Colorado State won titles in 1999, 2000, and 2001, however, the Rams have not been bowl eligible since 2017, and the Falcons' last bowl appearance came in 2019 and a 31-21 victory over Washington State in the Cheez-It Bowl. So I say meh because no offense to Colorado State and Air Force, but they are not big movers and shakers in conference realignment. Now, in the American Athletic Conference, Navy is already there. Air Force would be in there. There'd be an opportunity for kind of a conference game alignment there. Colorado State expands them to possibly get exposure to the Denver market. That is, if people from Denver actually watch Colorado State, which, no offense, they don't exactly move the ticker. But that's kind of the move right there. You can tell that by the quality of teams and the quality of brands as to whether or not things are heating up or slowing down. Things are definitely slowing down right now. Boise State and San Diego State were rumored to go to the American Athletic Conference, but I think they both have said no. Boise State is hoping for a Big 12 invite. We all know that the Pac-12 is not coming anytime soon, more than likely until either USC leaves or until they just have to expand. So probably no movement there, but that's where we're at. But I say all of that to say that I have come up with the greatest idea in the history of ideas. This right here would totally revolutionize college football. It would create it would be the coolest thing in the entire world. It's not going to happen, but it'd be really cool if it did. What should happen right now? So I believe that there's 3 things that I need to have happen, okay? So college football needs to unite. Now, I know that here's the difference, and I'll kind of break it down in a second. College football needs to unite. They need a strong central voice, and conferences need to not see themselves as their own entities, but see themselves as part of a system. So the problem right now is if you ask, the Pac-12 and the ACC and the Big 12, or the Big 10 and then the SEC, each of those conferences, despite the alliance between a couple of them, see themselves as individual entities. We care about the money that we make. Hopefully you do whatever the hell you're doing over there. The Big 10 is making the most money. The SEC wanted to add Texas and Oklahoma in. They don't give a dang about the Big 12. So the SEC, especially, the SEC sees they're like, hey, man, if the rest of these conferences fall apart, who cares, man? More power for us. Even though that the brand of college football across the country would just suck if everything other conference went away, everybody would go to those SEC schools. I tell you what, Vanderbilt would be thrilled. But it would really, really water down the sport. It would just get to the point where, you could tell there's 130 FBS teams right now. There is a heavy, heavy demand, even in those small places, even in El Paso, Las Cruces, New Mexico, in small, isolated areas, there still is a desire for college football. But what the problem right now is that I would compare the NFL to the UFC and college football to boxing. As an example, at the UFC right now, if there's a matchup that needs to be made, bam, it's made, okay? They have one central voice, notably Dana White right now. He kind of makes matchups up. He's like, you know what? You can't do the boxing thing where people can dodge and dive each other for a couple years. Oh, yeah, well, I'm on 51. Oh, I'll give you 51.5, but I also want this, I want that. And you can just see that the sport isn't run by a central voice. In the UFC, it is, and you've seen the growth that the UFC has done over the last couple of years. Boxing, unless there's a dynamite, unbelievable, undefeated boxer, or there's a demographic, champion or somebody like, Canelo, it's really tough to create a unified voice and unifying a whole bunch of individual clans. As an example, does anybody know how many world titles there are in boxing right now? So I Google it. There are 4. There's the WBA, WBC, IBF, and WBO. And it says the ring title was awarded, but it stops in 1922. But there are 4 ring titles. So you have to unify the belts. You got to go over here and get the WBC. You got to go over here and get the WBA. Got to get the IBF. Got to get the WBO. You could unite all those, the undisputed champion. But it's the point. The problem with that is that there's nobody. The sport of boxing doesn't see itself as a sport. It sees itself as, hey, we're Anthony Joshua. We're gonna worry about Anthony Joshua's camp. Hey, we're Floyd Mayweather. Hey, we're this camp. Hey, we're Canelo. We see ourselves as individual entities that do not care about the holistic approach of the sport. So what is an idea that the college football could implement that would be so cool? I honestly think this would be awesome. There's an idea that is actually implemented in the English Premier League soccer that I think would be awesome. It is called conference promotion and relegation. So here we are. This is a Wikipedia article, but basically it says right here, the English Premier League. So the bottom 3 teams are relegated. So they have 20 teams in their league, and then basically the top 17 get to stay. 18, 19, and 20 move down a division, okay? And then there's level 2, there's level 3. It gets to the point, if you come down here, there's actually pretty cool. So they have the Premier League, the EFL League 1, the EFL League 2, the National League, and then you get the National League North, the National League South. You start to get in some of the regional leagues down here. There's a ton of teams that actually get to this point to where people are constantly moving and jiving. It promotes, investment. Those teams that are really invested in their growth can actually go up and go down from there. But it is really, really cool that they can kind of match all of this stuff up. It also promotes the fact that the top teams are always trying as much as they can. Nobody can really, mail it in as a college football team if this were to be implemented. So I have created something, and we're going to go over this in a second here. So what I propose, right now there's 130 college football teams. I promote this, okay? There's going to be 5 region-specific groups of teams, 26 teams in 5 different groups that will be composed of a 12-team Premier League and a 14-team secondary league. Honestly, I have a gold and silver. That's how I've kind of organized these things. But it would be region-specific. These would be very similar to the Pac-12, the Big 12, the SEC, the ACC, and the Big 10. It's very similar to that, but again, it would maintain a lot of those rivalries, but it would also promote promotion and relegation. The reason why I think this would be interesting is because here are the strengths and weaknesses of this. So the strength of this is that it's always ensuring competition. Texas and Oklahoma went over to the SEC because the SEC wanted to create marquee matchups. I want to see Texas against Tennessee. I want to see LSU visiting, Norman. Things like that. They wanted to promote that. With this, those teams, the bottom team of every division gets relegated down, and the top team of the lower division gets relegated up. That promotes competition across the board. Allows for secure rivalries. So the cool thing about college football is that you have your conference schedule and then you have your non-conference schedule. If you played 8 conference games, so as an example, 12, you divide up into 6 and 6. So you'd be 1 and you play 5 conference games and then 3 on the other side. So you play all of your division teams and then 3 on the other side. And then you'd still allow 4 non-conference games. The cool thing about that is that, let's just say you were in a situation where a team that's in your division gets relegated down. That game that you play against, that designated rivalry, as an example, you would still be able to play them, but it would be a non-conference game. It would just kind of switch over. So it'd be really, really cool. It would allow for a lot of secure rivalries to stay intact. It would also allow relegated teams to compete. So the cool thing is that everybody would still be FBS, and I'm going to show you here in a second. So don't hold out on me here. But it would allow everybody to remain in the FBS. So you would still be able to compete for, and again, I think that a 12-team playoff expansion would be huge for this. A 12-team playoff expansion, because if you were to say you were a relegated team, you relegate down a division, but then you go 12-0 against those teams and you win your conference championship, you go 13-0, and let's just say you're number 9, you probably still would get a playoff spot. So nobody would be shut out of the national championship. There would be a little bit more chaos in the scheduling, but at the same time, you would still be able to allow for those conference and non-conference games, especially when they are rivalries. Now, here's the part where it gets negative. This would be why it's just 100% not going to happen, is because it doesn't account for stronger regions. And again, we're going to go into that in a second here. I'm going to show you this markup that I made that is a ton of work. I did so much work on this, but it doesn't allow for certain regions. So if certain regions have 2 really dominant lower tier teams, only one of them comes up. It would kind of hurt that. Also, the big reason why, and this is the big thing, the networks just wouldn't want it. Okay, the networks, they want consistency. They want to know who is going to be playing who and when. Those European teams, they're much more secure in who they have at the top. Whereas this right here, there could be some volatility, and the conferences would not. The networks would hate it because they wouldn't know if one year Oklahoma goes 4-8, they get relegated down. That'd be hurting if you couldn't account for who they're supposed to play and the marquee matchups that they would miss out on. The last team here, this would allow for a couple of the top tier teams to really like it. Those teams that are always at the top would love that because they're always having competitive games and good games on the docket. Whereas the mid-tier teams would hate this. Okay, the teams that go around 6-6, 5-7, this and that, they'd be losing, they'd be moving rivals here and there. They would hate that because it would allow for more competition. And unfortunately, I hate to say it, a lot of teams don't want competition. Okay, they want their matchups. Okay, the SEC wants to go to a 16-team league. They want to have 9 conference games. They'd have all conference games if they could. They just want to play their own teams, have their own matchups. They don't want to mess around with the Sun Belt or the AAC or the ACC or anything like that. They want to keep it in-house. And then the other thing here is that you have to scramble for scheduling. So right now in college football, the big thing that sucks about college football is that they have to schedule things way in advance. Oh, hey, this team and that team are going to play each other. When? 2029 and 2030. And you're like, wait, what? But you have to understand that in professional sports leagues, as an example, they kind of have an understanding of who they're going to play, but they come up with the schedule 3 months before it happens, and then bam, the schedule comes out. They would have to do a little bit more scramble scheduling, but again, they have plenty of time. The games would be done by the first week in January. You could have the schedule out by May. That's more than enough time to get that kind of stuff going. But I've shown enough here. I'm actually going to come off the camera here. I'm going to show you what I've done. And again, everybody hold it off on me, okay? I may or may not have certain teams in certain regions. This would be adjustable. But again, let me know what you think. Let's get into this real quick. Okay, so here I have really quickly. So I have 5 divisions: the Pacific, the Heartland, the Southeast, the Atlantic, and the Great Lakes region. Essentially, if you really want to break it down, it's going to be Pac-12, Big 12, SEC, ACC, and then the Big 10. So you'll see here as an example, in the gold group, there'd be a coastal division and then a mountain division, and then there'd be a silver group for the coastal division and the mountain division. Teams would be relegated up and relegated down as they go from there. No offense to Washington State and Oregon State. They might be relegated up, but this is a kind of a tough division to get up into. But then if you go from here, you'll see that the Heartland group's got the north and then the south. The South is basically just all Texas teams, and then the North is going to have, KU, Missouri, Tulsa, UL Monroe, UL Lafayette. Those are kind of weird, but I had to kind of fit them in somewhere. And then, you'll see down here, we're in the South, in the Silver Group, you got UTEP, UL Lafayette, Tulane, Rice, Texas State, UTSA, and SMU. Where I think this would be really valuable is that you'd have to make sure that the Blue Bloods were really interested in what they had. So as an example, who they had on their docket, the Southeast region, the Gold Group South, check this out. Miami, Florida State, LSU, Alabama, Auburn, and Florida. Imagine that as a conference schedule, just a division schedule. That would be off the chain. There'd be tons of viewers. Alabama and Miami played this last year, or a couple weeks ago. It wasn't close, but imagine if that was a division game. That'd be awesome. And then again, more than likely, Florida State's not doing so hot right now. They would probably be relegated down. But again, if they were to be relegated down, UFC or UCF gets relegated up or something like that, Florida State still has an opportunity. They'd have to beat a whole bunch of lower tier teams, but they still have an opportunity if they were to run the table or something like that. So nobody would be shut out of the national championship, but you'll see all this stuff here. And again, I know that where this would be an issue is a couple of these divisions. As an example, UCF's not bad. You'll see a couple of the teams down here, FAU, FIU, South Alabama, Troy. Some of them can actually be good every once in a while. But then you'll see over here in the Gold Group East, Michigan, Michigan State, Ohio State, Penn State, Pittsburgh, and Syracuse. You'll see the Silver Group East, Akron, Bowling Green, Kent State, Central Michigan, Western Michigan, Eastern Michigan, and Toledo. That really lacks a dominant team to come up and down. So more than likely, Syracuse or Pittsburgh or whoever has a bad year between these teams will be relegated down, relegated up, relegated down, relegated up. It would create a little bit of chaos. That's why I think it probably wouldn't happen. But I do think that this right here would be so cool if this were to happen. It fits nice and neat. I also am going to make sure I have this link here. I'm actually going to put this link in the description so you can see it. I want to show you that really quickly. So this link that I showed you here is awesome. It is every single college football team. I don't know who actually uploaded this thing, but you'll be able to come down here and say, oh, who's that? Oh, that's North Texas. Oh, who's that right there? Oh, that's SMU. Wait, who's this right here? Oh, that's TCU. You'll be able to see all that kind of stuff, and it has it color-coded according to conference and everything like that. So I would encourage you all to come in here and check out this link. It is awesome. I don't know who created this, but everybody get after that. I know. It was absolutely perfect. It was an awesome idea. Listen, it's not going to happen, okay? Because the problem is you have to tell the SEC, the ACC, the Big 12, the Big 10, and the Pac-12, and then all of those other divisions below and all of the independents to all come together, put their differences aside, and band together under one united front. And that's the reason why it's not going to happen. But again, let me know in the comments what you think. And again, you can comment on my divisions. This team should be over there. That team should be over here, and everything like that. Just let me know. All right, everybody, thank you so much for being here. Please like, share, subscribe in the channel. Get in the comments. Let me know what you think right there. But this is a long one, man. I am going to get myself to bed. I will see you all on Friday. I am out.